Hey out there, it's Wakeangel2K1's again. Appearing with a new perspective. My camera is lower, about waist height, and angled slightly upwards, so you can get a tighter view of my face. That's because I wanted to do a little bit of a different thing with this video. I wanted to be able to hold things up to the camera. What's this about? I'm talking about female Transformers. You see, the thing is, Hasbro has a lot of female Transformers coming out. I checked on BBTS and the pre-orders for Windblade will be coming out in August. Hopefully that means her brick and mortar date is actually in August as well, so can't wait to get that thing. And then shortly afterwards we're getting proper G1 RC, which is only about 25 years late, and new Chromia, which looks awesome. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to look back over all my Autobots and Decepticons and get a feel for how the female Transformer thing has been done over the years. Let's start with the Decepticons, because there actually seems to be a wider variety of ladycons than ladybots, which I don't know, we'll talk about that later. So there's going to be no specific generational order, so it's not like they're going to be chronological or anything, or even official, as I'm going to be starting with one of my customs. This was Nightbird. Yes, you remember Nightbird. She was my first official Transformer custom. I made her from Animated RC based on a fan art that I saw, and the Animated RC mold actually got used quite a few times to make, you know, like BotCon exclusive repaints, like Drag Strip, and one of the customizing the classes exclusive figures was an RC repaint. There's been a lot of RC repaints, although none of them seem to hit retail, which is weird. Like, this is one of the coolest female molds, and was for quite a while, and none of her repaints ever made it to retail. I had to make one myself. So yeah, like, I always thought that the supremely great posability in this mold's arms suits the ninja mold pretty well, so you can take on lots of martial arts poses, and I even made her little nunchucks. Yeah, even after all these years, I'm still proud of how this figure came out. I'm really proud of it. But when I look at that video, I'm a little bit embarrassed because I tried my hardest to imitate the voice of Vangelis, one of the other toy reviewers on YouTube, and that guy with the glasses.com, and it's a pretty pathetic imitation considering, you know, he just has a great speaking voice. I tried to imitate it and it came out pathetic. So yeah, that's that's why I made this thing. I just wanted to have a Nightbird figure, and the only real Nightbird figure you could get was like a repaint of an Impossible Toys RC. It's like a third-party figure that was an exclusive at BotCon. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to find that. Of course, I'd also have to show off her vehicle mode. It's still RC's little future car. I might mention how much I love this little thing. I mean, at the time this thing came out, it was so great to not, one, have a female Transformer figure, two, have it turn into a car instead of a motorcycle, because they all turn into motorcycles because that's just a slimmer thing, and that's kind of cheating. I mean, sure, let's take a vehicle that's naturally slim and tiny so that it can become a slim and tiny thing. No, car, that's great. Although she doesn't peg together on the roof very well because the side get in the way. I could fix that, but I always keep her in robot mode, and the character never transformed the cartoon anyway, so I only just transformed her to show that I still can. Although you gotta be careful because the paint does come off on the inside of the tabs. But it's okay. Nothing that tabs shows in robot mode, so it's okay to transform her every now and then. But yeah, like, RC's car mode from Animated was great, and my little custom looks great too. Although I did almost tear off the Decepticon symbol I made. Shouldn't have made it out of paper. I should have just sprung for a Repo label, except I'm a broke bastard. Okay. Moving on, let's go to let's get them all the spiders out of the way. Let's start with Black Arachnia. Although based off of the Beast Wars mold, this Black Arachnia is indeed a Decepticon. Yeah, there's a Decepticon symbol in there, because this is her universe repaint. Now, yes, I do this. Now the thing is, in Beast Machines, for the most part, I remember that toy line from when I was younger, and it wasn't a very good toy line. I remember a lot of the figures from it looked nothing like they did in the show. Of course, they really didn't have much of a chance, because if you watch the show, you see the way they transform. There's like no parts. They just kind of morphed. They didn't transform. Yeah, I'm just waving my hands around as if that means anything. But the Black Arachnia mold, this one was great. It's a genuinely good toy, and it does look pretty close to how she looked in the show, which was it's just really cool. I really like this particular Black Arachnia mold. She looks great. There's just the thing that she looks like my mother. Oh God, this Black Arachnia face. It looks like a robot version of my mother's face. I remember when I bought this from TJ Omega, another toy reviewer here on YouTube. He was having a spring cleaning sale, and I snapped it up because it was the cheapest way I could get this mold, which I always wanted. And then when I got it out of the box, like, oh right, I finally have this Black Arachnia mold, and why does it look like my mom? I still can't look at this thing for prolonged periods of time these days, because I love my mother, but this is just disturbing to see her face on a giant spider lady. Ugh. This Black Arachnia spider mode is, okay. I mean, these front two legs are way too tiny, although it's good that they have, like, ball joints and swivels and everything. She has this little gimmick, which, accomplishes very little. Oh, well, at least the gimmick is minimal and not too obtrusive. It looks okay, except when you turn it around, that's supposed to be a Black Widow mark, but it's very clearly just her head. It doesn't even really fully hide there, now without breaking up the sculpt of the abdomen. Yeah, plus her waist joint pops off all the time when I'm trying to turn it around. If you don't move everything exactly right so it has enough clearance, pop goes the waist joint. And then you have two halves of a Black Arachnia. Still, it's huge. I mean, this thanks to the leg span, this thing has a significantly huger footprint. It's when I did my initial review of this figure, I called it reverse mass shifting, because you get an unexpectedly small robot out of this giant alt mode, which is okay. It's cool. Like I said, this is a very serviceable Black Arachnia figure, especially for the time. I mean, the first Black Arachnia figure was just a pathetic Tarantulas repaint that didn't look anything like the character on the show at all. And the second Black Arachnia was better, but had this massive backpack kibble that I understand that they really didn't have any place to put it because the robot slash vehicle mode, I mean the spider slash vehicle mode was so complicated, while the show model was so slim, and it just wasn't going to happen. But I don't know, that's a really gigantic shoulder pack. They just kind of stuck it up on her shoulders, and it was all huge and eh. But yes, this version of Black Arachnia, not bad. I think that's a pretty decent spider mode, although the robot mode just outshines it by such a wide margin. This is another thing I just I appreciate more as an action figure than I do as a Transformer, really. But okay, let's move on to the next one. I speak, of course, of the animated version of Black Arachnia. You know, I still think that Transformers Animated had to be my favorite toy line overall. I just love this thing. I mean, when I first saw the concept art from the show, I was wondering how the hell would they do that. I mean, they look so stylized. It kind of looked like a cross between the Powerpuff Girls meets, you know, like they had the Powerpuff Girls, My Life as a Teenage Robot, Robot Boy, Samurai Jack aesthetic going on, with all those soft curves and stylized proportions. Like, how are they going to make toys of that? I mean, Transformers is famous for having that blocky aesthetic. How are you going to make something so smooth and curvy? Well, Well, actually this one's quite a spiky figure, but you get what I mean. Like, they pulled it off, and they pulled it off fantastically. And for the novelty that they made those stylized looks work, that is what really makes it one of my favorite toy lines. And that doesn't change the fact that this is a really, really great figure by itself. She solves a problem that the, she's first of all, this color scheme is very reminiscent of her Transmetal 2 form in Beast Wars, and it actually looks more like her Transmetal 2 form in Beast Wars robot mode than the actual Transmetal 2 Beast Wars figure did. I mean, the colors are there, and she actually is the right size. She doesn't have this enormous kibble backpack, and it looks great, and it articulates great. She could use some wrist swivels, but other than that, like, she has like weapons, and she can do that thing in the cartoon she did, and she has everything going on for her, like this, like the spider eye nipples and the 4 eyes on the face, and she's all really flexible and posable, and she has these little feet that she can stand on, but if you have a hard time standing on her, you can make the feet bigger, giving her a ridiculous, like, 16-inch stiletto heel, which is physically impossible for a human being, but she can do it because she's Black Arachnia, and this is a great figure. I love this thing. It's awesome. It's just a great. This is my favorite Black Arachnia. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love that universe version, but this is my favorite Black Arachnia. And then there's her spider mode, which, as you can probably see just from the fact that I'm holding it like this, it's significantly smaller than the universe mold, but it's really well proportioned. Doesn't really have any kibble exposed either, except for her hands right there, which do nothing to hide. They're quite shameless. And you can see her head on the other side, although it's turned inside, so you just see her red light piping, which isn't bad. One of my favorite things is that she doesn't really have a gimmick in this mode, except that her weapon has this extending string. I once kept her on display on my shelf for like 6 months, just like this, because this looks pretty good. This is a dangling spider, and you can like pin her abdomen between her thighs so that, you know, trust me, it works occasionally, as long as you don't look at it from behind, because then you can just kind of see her head. It just looks like she's doing some crazy contortionist thing. But yeah, this is a really good spider mode. I like how this is a really great spider mode. I like how it's not all gigantic and compromised by gimmick, and it's just an honest little spider that's about the same size as the robot mode, although it's like the robot mode laying down on the floor, but what you gonna do about that? Yeah, so yeah, this is my favorite Black Arachnia figure. She is just she's an adorably little terrifying thing, isn't she? I mean, just look at that. That thing is, that's a nice spider. It's all spiky, and it kind of looks more like a tarantula than a Black Widow, but, you know, it's technically a giant alien spider, so what you gonna do? So yeah, now let's take a little bit of a downturn. Transformers Prime Arachnid. Hasbro, what happened with this figure? I mean, Arachnid was a fan favorite character on the show. She was a great villain. She was sadistic. She held up. She hated the. She had a story arcing grudge against the human characters as much as she did against her RC, which was I don't want to say prey or unrequited love, but they definitely had something going on in the Cybertronian War. But she was a great villain. She provided lots of great pathos for RC, and she was. And the way she ends the series as some kind of vampire queen of the Insecticons, that's like, her toy deserved to be. If her toy was as good as her character on the show was, she would be a leader class triple changer. I mean, yeah, but this is a disgrace. I mean, look at it. Her arms are pathetic. They're like these paper thin slips of plastic, and the joints are like incomplete. Like there's a gap between her wrists, and like if this at least folded over down to cover it, it would look a little better and be more functional. And like she has like no real articulation. Like her, like, look at that's pathetic. She doesn't look good in any poses. She can barely manage to stand up straight. And although the joints are there, she has the articulation, her posability is nil. Nil. That's as far as her leg will move. And she has a thigh swivel, but it's even more useless. And her backpack, it comes up over her head. And are you freaking kidding me? This is horrible. This is, I still maintain that this is probably the worst Transformer made in like the past 5 or 6 years at least. This is just horrible. This is a bad toy. This is a really bad figure. I only got it because I like Arachnid that much. And I still stand by the conspiracy theory that that although female characters are popular among older toy collectors, they are not as popular among younger boys, which is supposed to be their target demographic. So they tried to take a fan favorite character and make a horrible toy of her that adult collectors like myself wouldn't want to buy, and little boys wouldn't buy because little boys almost never get them anyway. So they figured that they would point at her poor sales to show a disinterest in female Transformers so that they wouldn't have to make any. I don't know if that conspiracy theory holds water because they demonstrably failed. After all, with the fan-made robot Windblade was overwhelmingly chosen to be female, and RC and Chromia, but still, this is egregious. This is terrible. This never should have seen the manufacturer's floor. This thing, no, like this is horrible. Like, Hasbro, don't do this again. This was bad. Her transformation isn't even very fun. It's both insultingly simple, yet somehow still fiddly and hard. It's so weird. I mean, the helicopter mode at least looks halfway decent. I mean, that's still pretty obviously her feet coming out there, and the only reason they're not more glaring is because they're unpainted. At least her rotor spins well, although this faint purple that they used makes it look so unrealistic. It just, I mean, I know it's a toy, but it just looks so toy-like. I mean, compared to some really good vehicle modes, including helicopters that we've gotten over the years, this is the fact that it's just it's a barely mediocre helicopter mode. Like, I mean, that's still her chest down there, and the only reason her face isn't showing is because there's a big empty void there instead. And then you can see the whole reason why the toy was so badly compromised. An opening cockpit gimmick to reveal a chair. No other character in the Transformers Prime series had an opening cockpit feature. Only Arachnid does. And she never had a passenger. In the entire course of the series, no one ever rode inside of her in helicopter mode. So they sacrificed the fidelity of the transformation and the robot mode to give us an opening cockpit feature which isn't even reminiscent of anything that happened in the cartoon itself. What were they thinking? That's horrible. Oh god. You know what? This toy, given the way it looks in robot mode and the insulting simplicity of its transformation, it feels like an overgrown Legends. I mean, it's a slightly undersized deluxe. I can close my hand around it, which shouldn't be too possible with a deluxe. But it just feels like an overgrown Legends toy. And speaking of which, the Transformers Cyberverse Arachnid, which is a Legends class figure. At least it would be Legends class if, the cartoon figures were made in Legends. So, yeah, I mean, it's only a Legends figure, but I'm willing to cut it more slack because it's so tiny. And it actually is a far better representation of Arachnid than the Deluxe could ever hope to be. I mean, she still has this big backpack kibble, and like that nose cone from the helicopter is pretty stupid. But, you know, again, Legends class figure. I don't think they've made many Legends class helicopters anyway, so that's a first. I mean, in the show, her rotors turn into her spider legs, which kind of draped over her shoulders, and this kind of captures that look better. Instead of having the two go over her shoulders and have one more sticking over her head, I mean, having one being ignored, that's better. That looks better. And look at her arms. She has no elbow joints, but as if the elbow joints from the deluxe are useful at all. But look, the arms are painted, and her knees are painted. Like, this figure actually had more care put into its paint apps than a deluxe. And I mean, the articulation it's a little freer. I mean, it's still kind of restricted, but compared to deluxe, she can actually do more stuff, especially since her hips are much freer. Like the deluxe Arachnid could never do this. I mean, sure, the deluxe Arachnid had a deeper knee bend, but I don't care, because her hip, being able to bring your hips up high enough to kick is more important than being able to bend your knees enough to sit, which you can't do with the deluxe because her hips won't go high enough for that. So yeah, it's really surprising how a Legends class figure can actually capture the character's look more than the deluxe. That's not supposed to happen. Her transformation is also much less fiddly, and even the vehicle mode looks better. I mean, her kneecaps are now this yellow bit, but I don't care. I also don't care about the purple toes. The rotor spins just fine. Everything fits nicely. I mean, the undercarriage of the helicopter looks a lot better fleshed out, and there's no gaping hole where her head is. It's actually covered up by the nose cone, and that looks good. This is a really nice little helicopter, and they did it at the Legends scale. I mean, it's amazing how an Arachnid figure, like, this isn't fantastic. It's good for a Legends, but even if they scaled this up to the size of a deluxe without changing anything else about its engineering, it would be a significantly better figure than the actual deluxe. Yes, I'm talking with that gigantic plate on her back and the nose cone hanging over her head and all, and no elbow joints and the limited knees. It would still be better than the deluxe we got. That is sad. And considering how Arachnid is such a good character, such a well-liked villain, it's just so sad that she didn't get proper love as a toy, at least on the deluxe scale. Let's return to an older mold with the Energon Thunderblast. Yeah, this is another early Transformers female mold, and congratulations on looking feminine. And I can't fault her for looking like the character from the show, except, well, you know, the character from the show was probably designed to be, I mean, the character on the show was designed to look like just a female robot with a gigantic boat cape. I mean, her design is lazy on a fundamental level. So even though she's show accurate, that's still not going to win too many points because your design is lazy. This is one of the laziest Transformers I've ever seen. She at least has a saving grace in that she kind of has a really nice form factor. She looks good, and her articulation is really good. Double jointed elbows. She can salute. She has good range on her hips. She has good knees. She has foot articulation. You know, that's, I mean, she even has a waist joint. I mean, granted, she is basically a robot Barbie doll stuck onto a boat. Like, she's held in place by a single pin. You knock that pin out, and you just have a female robot with, admittedly, no butt. But still, it's such a lazy transformation. I mean, and also, it's kind of a hilariously, accidentally obscene transformation. I'm actually doing it on camera. I usually do the transformations off camera because I'm trying to keep the time down, but this one is so simple. Like, Oh gosh. Okay, I just wanted to show this transformation mid-step. I mean, come on. This is just adding insult to injury. I mean, the figure's transformation is so dirt simple, but also like, and you're supposed to fold her arms up like this, and that looks even worse. What were you thinking? I mean, Arachnid was a bad design, but this just shows no thought. They didn't really put any thought into this, unless they were hoping that the gag factor would I refer to gag as in like the funny way of gag, not gag as in it disgusts me. Like the gag factor of the slightly obscene transformation. Let's just do this. And so 10 seconds of not having to focus on keeping her in the frame of the camera, and boat mode. I mean, it's a decent looking little boat, except I can never really, on mine I think like there was something wrong with the mold, because I can't really get the very tip of the boat to stay together. Like her feet don't want to meet, and this part doesn't want to clip in. But still, it looks okay. I mean, you never expect this to float anyway, and she has this cool little gun on top which shoots a missile with the Cyber Planet key, which I have placed in a box so that it won't get lost. It's it's serviceable. It's a good-looking boat. It's a good-looking robot. It's the laziest transformation design I've ever seen. But again, she was like she was one out of only 2 female characters in the entire show, and she was made at a time when toy companies were still skeptical whether you could sell female characters on a boy targeting toy line. So they cheaped out on her, but at least they didn't cheap out on her in a way that made her look bad. So like if Arachnid was the worst example of cutting corners for the girl in the wave, then Thunderblast is a better example of cutting corners for the girl in the wave. Speaking of the girl in the wave, Ripclaw from the Transformers Prime Beast Hunters line. She's the only of the Beast Hunters that I actually bought. Well, the only of the Predacons I bought because she was the girl. The exact opposite of what the market research would lead you to believe. Actually, I do believe that Ripclaw was one of the most popular ones in the wave precisely because she was advertised as female. Although there are so many throwbacks to this figure. She's a Predacon, which is a reference to Beast Wars. You know, the Maximals and the Predacons being the Autobot and Decepticon descendants. Her transformation is so much like a Beast Wars era toy. It's basically stand the figure up, reconfigure the torso into humanoid mode, and there you go. She's a female character that doesn't look very feminine, i.e. the original Black Arachnia and Air Razor figures. Then, you know, like all those homages to, like cheeky little homages to the toy line. And she's a damn nice figure, too. I wish her head was a little more articulated. I mean, she can really only nod, because there's not really much room there to do anything else. I can't really turn that head. She looks vaguely feminine. Like, she looks like a beefy Amazon. She has, like, a striker thing going on. Like, again, that's supposed to be a reference to back then they used a male buck to make a female character, but you know, she still looks pretty good. She's a very decent little dragon former, and she has that enormous tail, which can actually has enough articulation to come up over her head. So it's like she can like scorpion whip you. That's not bad. And she has this really cool little dragon head on the back. Let's get her into beast mode and can show you how the dragon looks. Oh, and I wanted to mention the mid step. This really cool humanoid dragon form. This looks pretty cool in and of itself. I mean, she looks like a boss character from a fantasy video game. That's kind of awesome. And here is Ripclaw's full-on dragon mode. You know, besides this wicked tail claw thing, this looks the most like a conventional dragon of any of the Beast Hunters dragons. I mean, this is really cool looking. I mean, the wings, the posture, the fact that it's still really articulated because all the robot mode joints still work in this form, and even that little grabby claw on the end of her tail. Like, where's the button for it? Oh yeah. Yeah, that's cool. This is a, and the fact that it's removable to become her alt mode weapon, her robot mode weapon. I mean, this is a, yeah, this is a great toy. Yeah, like perfect Beast Wars homage, perfect throwback. I love this thing. This is a great little dragon mode, and I love Ripclaw. She's a great Transformer. I mean, maybe not the best ever, but she's really good. I mean, anything to get another girl in the line. I mean, Transformers Prime officially having 3 female characters like Ripclaw, Arachnid, and RC. Actually, they had one more. Yep, that's right. She was only a repaint of the RC figure, but on the Legends scale RC figure, the Cyberverse Legion. But it's Flame War. This figure, like, she never officially appeared in the cartoons. Then again, neither did Ripclaw. Although, from what I understand, she does feature pretty prominently in the comics, which I've never read. But this is the only Flame War figure to ever make it to retail. Most Flame Wars are like BotCon exclusive repaints given away as a freebie at the door. But yeah, I mean, Flame War finally made it to retail thanks to Transformers Prime and this cute little RC mold. I mean, it's only a Legends class figure, but you know, it's a Legends class motorcycle with good articulation and robot mode. It's not bad at all. She's nice. And so with 4 female characters on their roster, I think and 4 different characters. I'm not talking like 4 toys, like where some of them are multiple versions of the character, because I mean there's like 4 different RCs alone. But yeah, that officially made Transformers Prime the line with the most female characters in it. Yeah, isn't that kind of interesting? Yep, but although I'm not completely done with, even though I've done all the female characters that were officially released, I'm not quite done with female characters in Transformers Prime molds just yet. Although first I gotta show Flame War's little vehicle mode. I like how the flames carry on in this mode. She has really nice flame job with the Legend scale. I also like how she's not black. She's actually a deep purple. I mean, I don't know how well purple photographs or if my light's really showing off the true color, but she's like a deep, dark energon purple rather than just basic black, and I think that's really cool. Alright, so on to the final Transformers Prime figure I have. And that, of course, is my Slipstream custom. Yeah, this figure, she kind of came into existence because I personally decided to challenge the Transformers Collector Club. Yeah, you see, you know the Transformers Collector Club likes to release a lot of repaints as exclusive figures, and a couple years ago, in 2012, they made a Slipstream by taking the Prime Starscream and repainting it and giving it a new head. So like, even if you were to try and buy her at Big Bad Toy Store right now, she'd run you $70, and that's considered clearance for one of those things. So ain't nobody got time for that. I just bought myself a first edition Starscream and made her myself. Yeah, I don't mean to brag, but I love the way this came out. I genuinely think that you could put mine next to the official one, and they would, and she would compare favorably. I mean, they'd be able to tell the difference. I mean, she just has a slightly modified head instead of the actual Slipstream head mold. And I did paint her midriff differently to be more accurate to her Transformers animated color scheme, where she had a silver midriff, where the toy just has an all purple midriff. But I think that I did a really good job. I think I did at least as well as they did. And she looks really great. I mean, I was really upset that an official Slipstream figure never made it to retail, considering she was probably the best developed of the Seeker team from the animated show where she came from. As opposed to all the other Seekers who are all like, it's Starscream, but with one hilariously exaggerated personality gimmick. You know, like, the liar, the suck-up, the sycophant, the sycophant is a suck-up, the egomaniac, the coward, you know, and the girl wait, that's kind of offensive to just make her the girl. Let's make her the one who's actually the smartest one, and she actually like branches out and becomes a free agent and actually has character development of at least more than any of the other Seekers did. Not like the other two guys like, oh, I can't tell the two of you apart. Here, have some hats. Which is the extent of character development for two of the other Seekers. So yeah. And of course, just like the Nightbird I made earlier, she can still transform. Of course she can still transform. I wouldn't be much of a toy customizer if I would make a transformer and take away the primary feature that all Transformers have, wouldn't I? So yeah, the Starscream First Edition mold always impressed me with how small a jet it actually turns into. I mean, I forgive the smallness of the jet mode for the cool mass shifting effect that it has. But yeah, like I really like the way Slipstream's colors work in her jet mode as well. Although the silver does make her legs a little more obvious than they were even on Starscream. But oh well, she's still a really great little jet, and a custom that I am proud to have made. So that just leaves kind of one to go. Although I saved her for last because she's more of an honorable mention. I speak, of course, of Windshear, the one part of the 3-part Minicon Assault team. I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be a female character. I mean, the slender legs, the high-heeled shoes, the small chin. She just looks like a very feminine figure to me, which is cool. Officially making her the first Generations female mold, at least one that was originally made for the Generations line and not a repaint of something. Yeah, I mean, she's a Minicon, so her articulation is on scale with a Legends class figure. You know, ball-jointed shoulders, ball-jointed hips, sole knee. You know, it's all good. She still has a spinning rotor, and she has a very simple transformation. Just gotta configure some things. Be careful not to pop parts off while you do it. But yeah, just yeah, fold things up, move things around. Take the gun off, of course. Look, I did it on camera, mostly by accident. And she becomes a helicopter with a ludicrously large minigun attached to it. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, she's a Minicon, not a Decepticon. But in the comic that she came with, along with her two partners to make the Minicon Assault Team Gestalt, of which she forms the head, and kind of progressive. First ever female character to be featured in a Gestalt combiner, and she forms the head. That's kind of awesome. Yeah, I mean, in that comic issue, the Minicons were attacking Autobots, so even though they aren't technically Decepticons, I'm gonna count them as I'm gonna count her in the con. You know, because Minicon. So this is the ladycon review. Minicon is a ladycon. Okay, so this has gone on for quite a while. I think I'm going to do the Autobot half in a separate video. But yeah, this has been all the female molds of the Transformers that I own. I know there's a couple more out there, like Strika from Beast Machines, and of course the first couple, Black Arachnia figures, which I don't have. But yeah, this is all that I have, and I think my collection's pretty wide. Alright, so this is Wakeangel2K1's, and I'm signing off.